Hi, G. Murray Thomas here again, reading more from my caregiving memoir, Living the Sundown. A little bit of a trigger warning for today. I'm basically going to read the end of the story, and most caregiving, especially with dementia patients, this is inevitably the end. So it's sad, but we knew the end was near for my father. He was fading fast. We tried to prepare. My brother made plans to come out from Ann Arbor, but felt he had to quarantine for a couple of days to make sure he didn't bring COVID with him. We all thought he had enough time. On the evening of February 10th, my father refused any food. He raised his hand to his mouth to tell the aide that he did not want to eat anything. When he had settled, the aide put my mother to bed. I went downstairs to my bedroom. About an hour later, the aide came down to get me, something she had never done before. "I can't get your father to respond to anything," she stated tearfully. I assumed he had slipped into a coma, and we went upstairs to check. I approached his bed and picked up his hand. It was limp and getting cold already. "He's gone," I confirmed. She already knew. I briefly wondered why she hadn't just told me, but then I realized that that was my job, my declaration to make. The aide and I hugged, and I let her go home. The hug was as much for her as for me. I made the phone calls, my brother, my sister, and the hospice care team. A nurse came and helped prepare my father for the undertaker. We decided to wait until the next day to have the body removed so my brother could at least see him one last time. I sat with him in the living room. I'm not sure exactly why, it just seemed the right thing to do. Despite my awareness his death was coming, I was in shock. I needed time to absorb the reality which had descended. I also wanted to be ready in case my mother woke up, though I'm not sure how I would have handled it. I finally went to bed around 4. The next day was a blur. I don't remember when my mother got up, when my sister arrived, when my brother arrived. I don't even remember if we had an aide that morning. I assume that if we do, she had probably been warned, likely by the aide from the previous night. I do remember that it was very awkward sitting there waiting for my brother and then for the undertaker with a dead body in the room, and my mother not understanding what was going on. Before the undertaker arrived, we all drank a toast of scotch and placed our hands on my father's body. I do remember that my mother thought he was still sleeping. She was quite surprised when the undertaker took him away. I thought he was going to wake up. My only regret is that, although it occurred to me, I didn't make my mother say something to him while he was still alive. But I didn't know how to explain it to her, that he was dying, and this was her chance to say goodbye. What would she have done? Would she have accepted it and said something? Or would she have denied it and thrown a fit? But I should have tried. And then, 10 months later, my mother went into the hospital for bed sores. And she was released into home hospice the next day. Although I had helped her into the car many times, this time it was a real struggle. She didn't have the strength or the coordination to make her usual moves. It took 2 nurses to help me get her in. When we got home, she refused to get out of the car. I let her sleep there for a while until my brother arrived from picking up medical supplies. The 2 of us eventually got her out of the car and into her wheelchair. We took her inside the house. Did she want something to eat? No. Did she want to go to bed? Yes. We wheeled her into the bedroom. She made it halfway into bed but fell asleep with her head on the pillow, her feet still on the floor. She looked so comfortable that I left her like that. When the aide arrived, she got her all the way in. She slept all that night. The hospice nurse arrived in the next morning, showing her the various protocols for caring for her. Then we went back to the bedroom. My mother was still asleep. Actually, she was more than asleep. When we rolled her over and changed her bandage, she did not respond at all. I calmly thought, well, this is it. She remained unresponsive throughout the day. The hospice team provided a hospital bed, as they had for my father. When we moved her into it, she did not react. Saturday, she was comatose. We gave her wet sponges to suck on and some fluid, and she would clamp down hard to them, but that may have just been instinct. My brother, sister, and I took turns sitting with her and saying goodbye. When I told her I loved her, she opened one eye, but her stare remained blank. I told her she had been a great mother. I'm not certain, but I believe the aides each said their own goodbyes. We rolled her over every couple of hours and gave her small doses of morphine to ease the pain. Saturday night, when the aide and I went to the bedroom to roll her, she was gone. We both tried numerous times to find a pulse, but there was none. My sister later told me she could hear us through the monitor and understood it was over. My brother was downstairs on the phone with his wife. I gently informed him. The rest of us gathered by her bedside for one final time. We had all been anticipating this moment, so it was easier than with my father. Then we started making the necessary phone calls. Like I say, that's how these stories end, even though that's not completely the end of the story. But if you want to order the book, you can go to moontidepress.com. If you want to know more about me, gmurraythomas.com. Thank you for listening.